今日は博雅の先生だから。
Remaining in that charitable gift annuity to AFA for their culture transforming work after your death. That and so much more, the team at the AFA Foundation would love to understand what you're trying to do and help you with that. Riley and Chelsea and Jessica and others there at the AFA Foundation would be delighted to connect with you. So here at the end of the year, reach out. Better to do that early. It's going to be busy this time of year, but if you have appreciated stock, you're interested in a charitable gift annuity, you'd like to talk about bequests, all of that can be handled by the team there, afafoundation.net. All right, here in our final segment, we've got room for one or two more questions. If you have a question in your financial life, you can call right now, 800-525-7000. Our team is standing by and would love to hear from you today. Let's go to Georgia. Priscilla, you'll be next up. Go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Hi there. How can I help you?
I had called you a week ago, and I have these 3 adult children, 2 girls responsible, and 1 son not too responsible. And we talked about a trust. But I got to thinking last night, I have a lot of CDs and IRAs, and they're evenly put between the 3 of them.
Yeah.
How do I go about erasing his name and putting it in the trust? Do you know?
Yeah, so are the children's names there as co-owners or just beneficiaries?
Beneficiary.
Okay, yeah. You can change the beneficiary at any time. And so what you would want to do is contact the institution that offered you the CD, and you can have them either retitle it in the name of the trust, or you can make the trust the beneficiary of the CD, so that you pass away, the money goes into the trust, and then the trustee would distribute the money according to the trust documents. The same would be true with that IRA. You could make the trust the beneficiary. So because you can change beneficiaries at any time, that would be very easy to do. If they were co-owners of the CDs, they wouldn't be with the IRA because they can't be. But if they were co-owners, you'd need their permission. But because they're beneficiaries, very easy to change. And again, you would just direct the proceeds of each of these accounts to the trust at your death, and then the trust kicks in at that point. Does that make sense?
Right. So in other words, I get rid of all 3 being the beneficiary and change it over to a trust.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And put the 2 back. No, I wouldn't put the 2 back. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't mean to hold you up. I know you have other people calling.
No
Thank
problem.
You so much.
Yeah, and here's the bottom line. A revocable trust can be named as a beneficiary of a certificate of deposit. So when you designate that revocable trust as the beneficiary, the assets of the CD upon your death will transfer right into the trust, and that allows the trustee to manage or distribute those assets according to the terms of the trust. Does that make sense?
I see. Yes, it does. Thank you. That last sentence answered it. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
You are so welcome, Priscilla. Thanks for your call today. 800-525-7000 is the number to call. I've got room for perhaps one more question today before we round out the broadcast. If you have something going on in your financial life, you can call right now. Let's try to get in an email or two. These come into us all the time, and I don't get to them as often as I should. You can send emails to us at askrob@faithfi.com. Let's see. Connie writes to us, my dad has a HELOC, that's a home equity line of credit, with an interest rate of 9.49%. We want to get rid of it, and we're wondering if a zero interest credit card might be a good option to do this. Is there another option you'd suggest? I don't like that at all. Here's the reality is, a lot of folks will have a HELOC on their house just because they want to know that if they needed to, as a last resort, they can tap the home equity either because they know there's a project coming up, renovation, or just as kind of a fallback access to funds. I would much prefer that than having just a credit card sitting out there, because the problem is that 0% interest rate, first of all, is just introductory, and then the interest rate's going to shoot up to probably 20% or higher based on today's rates. That's going to make the problem even worse. The other thing is this HELOC interest rate is pegged to prime, and so typically what we see with these is they're variable rates, so they're not fixed, with a line of credit, not a home equity loan, but a home equity line of credit, otherwise known as a HELOC. Typically they're linked to prime, and you're going to have prime plus a margin, so they're typically prime plus 1 all the way up to prime plus 5 if you have poor credit score. But if you're 760 or higher, you're going to probably be at prime plus 1. Well, what is prime? Well, today prime is sitting at 8%, and so you'd be at 9. If it was prime plus 1.5, that is probably where this 9.49 rate is coming from Connie. But prime is going to be coming down with the Fed funds rate, so that prime rate is going to be dropping. Now, the big question here for Connie is, you want to get rid of the line. I would say just close it out, and that's great. We obviously want to get into a situation where he's living on a balanced budget and he has an emergency fund that we would tap for the unexpected, not taking on additional debt. But if you need something out there that's accessible, I'd rather have the HELOC with that rate declining. And I'm not talking about for consumer spending. We don't want to put that on the house. But if there was like a renovation or some kind of major event, I would certainly prefer that, especially with that rate coming down. Let's stay away from those credit cards. I hope that helps. Lutz writes, we recently sold our house and have around $350,000 sitting in a bank that earns practically nothing. My husband is suspicious of moving it into a high-yield savings account because it's not a brick-and-mortar bank. Are there any concerns we should be aware of? If not, how can we go about finding a good bank online? This is a great question. And Lutz, what I would say is online banks are insured by the FDIC just like brick and mortar banks, and they're just as safe as any brick and mortar bank. The difference is they just take the money that they have to pay for the people at the brick and mortar banks, not to mention the leases and the land and the buildings and the water and everything, and they redirect that back to you as the depositor in the form of higher interest rates. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. And you can look at their rating alongside their FDIC and protection. But that FDIC insurance, or NCUA in the case of a credit union, or even private insurance, is going to be the backstop that you need, so that either the full faith and credit of the United States government or the insurer is the one backstopping any kind of failure on the part of the bank, which just very rarely happens. So I would say this is a great opportunity, especially when you've got this sum of money. I mean, we've got $350,000 there, and think about where rates are right now. I mean, you can still get 4.25% with FDIC insurance. Now, you'd have to use two institutions to get the full $350,000, because the cap is $250 on the FDIC. But you can either use two banks, or if you have different titles, maybe one's titled in his name with you as the beneficiary, another account's titled jointly, that could give you $250,000 on each of them. But just think about 4.25%. I mean, that's $15,000 over the next 12 months on that $350,000. That is not an insignificant amount of money. The other thing I'll throw out here is that our friends at Christian Community Credit Union could be a great option, where they have some very attractive rates, and that you're partnered with an institution who shares your values. So not only are they doing crazy things that are against your values with the money in terms of supporting initiatives and so forth, but they're actually taking a part of the profits, the proceeds, and supporting incredible kingdom building ministries around the globe. So that might be something to check out at joinchristiancommunity.com. We're finding that more and more of our listeners are saying, I'm just tired of doing business with people that are misaligned with my values. Who can I partner with that is aligned with my values as a Christ follower? Well, that would be, among others, Christian Community Credit Union. Again, joinchristiancommunity.com. So I hope that helps you, Lutz. Thanks for writing to us. And folks, if you have a question, feel free to send it along. You can do that at askrob@faithfi.com. Hey, let me ask you for a favor before we round out the program here. I know so many of you listen to the program, you listen regularly, you call and say that it's been a blessing to you. We're so grateful to be able to serve you each day. That's why we're here. But we only do this because of your listener support. One of the great ways you can support our work here at FaithFi so we can continue to bring you this broadcast is when you become a FaithFi partner. Those are those listeners and supporters that support us at $35 a month or more. And when you become a FaithFi partner, you're going to get all of our new studies and devotionals pre-release before anybody else gets them, an average of 3 a year. Plus, you'll get our brand new publication that launches in January. Every quarter, a beautiful publication with really thoughtful and theological and practical articles to help you be a wise and faithful steward. That and more. A quarterly letter from me on the ministry. So to learn more, just go to faithfi.com and click give. That's faithfi.com and click give. And if you could do that before the end of the month, that would be a big help to us. Thanks in advance. Let me say thanks to my team today. Sandy Dickinson, Pat Montague, Devin Patrick, Jim Henry, and the entire team here at FaithFi. Couldn't do it without them. Have a great day and come back and join us tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
The AFR app, you probably think about your smartphone. We do have apps for Apple and Android users, but it doesn't stop there. If you have an Alexa, we've got you covered. But wait, there's more. Sorry, there's also an AFR app for Roku or Apple TV. So many ways you can listen to your favorite show, podcast, or music. Find out more at afr.net/apps.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. U.S. Customs and Border Protection released an update about border crossing numbers for September. Griff Jenkins has more.
CBP says the September border numbers were just 101,000, the lowest between ports of entry in 4 years. How'd they do it? Well, there's an app for that and a parole program. Over the past 2 years, more than 1.4 million have been allowed to enter the country lawfully under the CBP One app and the CHNV parole program. Now, the White House is taking that victory lap, putting out a quote saying border crossings have dropped by more than 55% to the lowest levels in over 4 years. Encounters between the ports of entry are lower than they were during the last several months of the previous administration. The Biden-Harris administration has taken effective action, and Republican officials continue to do nothing.
The FBI is probing the leak of U.S. intelligence on Israel's plans related to Iran. Rebecca Heinrichs, senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, says the Biden administration has a systemic leaking problem.
Anytime U.S. officials have conversations with the Israelis, then we find it reported in the American media without, naming the source in the Biden-Harris administration. So the biggest problem for me, and the biggest fallout from this, is that it further damages the United States' reputation as a reliable ally and partner, especially with allies like Israel, who are in a time of need, about to carry out a significant counterstrike against the Iran regime. And so there should be no leaks. And the American people have to have confidence in their administration that this is going to be investigated thoroughly and these people brought to justice if it was an intentional leak.
Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders says the Republican Party supports education across the board and strongly believes that parents know best when it comes to their own children.
The Republican Party hasn't just become a party for school choice, but for education across the board. We know that the best way to create opportunity and give a kid a pathway to success is through a great education. One of the biggest differences is that we know that parents, not governments, make better decisions about their kids' education.
A shocking report from the United Nations states over 700 female athletes have lost close to 900 medals to male athletes pretending to be women. Riley Gaines is host of the Gaines for Girls podcast on Outkick.com.
Well, I think this is huge, as you said, especially coming from the UN, especially off of the coattails of the Olympic Games, where we saw 2 athletes who had previously been banned from World Championships for failing sex eligibility requirements of having 2 X chromosomes in a boxing ring, winning gold medals in fights against women. So this is huge.
You've heard of the term religious nuns, N-O-N-E-S, to describe those who claim no faith. The American Bible Society has a couple of new categories that their latest release defines. Steve Jordahl looks at casuals and nominals.
You can draw a straight line from unbelievers to committed Christians and find a person's well-being and general outlook on life improves as he or she moves from the first to the second, according to John Plake of the American Bible Society. But he says there are a couple of stops along the way that are worth looking at.
Nominals. Nominals self-identify as being Christians, but they don't say their faith is very important to them. Then there are the casuals. These are people who they say their faith is very important to them, but they actually don't attend church once a month or more frequently.
Nominals are the largest percentage of Americans at 35%, slightly larger than nuns. Casuals make up 12% of the population, and 20% of Americans say they're practicing Christians. And again, you can chart each group's happiness, physical and mental health, and more along the line between non-Christian and practicing Christian.
Nominals are not doing as well as, say, even casual Christians or practicing Christians are. The only ones doing worse than they are non-Christians. Their stress levels are higher than others, their hope levels are lower than others, and their human flourishing levels are also lower than those who are practicing a biblical faith in a Christian community.
Blake says both new categories present mission fields to the church.
Begin to engage people on a spiritual level. More of them are open to that kind of engagement than we would like to believe.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pete.
Let's think about what God has done. I would wager that his top news story is still that the free salvation through the blood of Jesus Christ is available to all. I wager that will be the top news story until that salvation is no longer available. You will have made your decision for eternity. He doesn't ask us to do anything he won't, and then he does above what we can possibly do.
Hear Todd Herman on A Disciple's View, weekdays 12 p.m. Central on AFR.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Wednesday, October the 23rd, 2024. We hope you are having a good morning. I'm Tim Wildman again with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Wesley Wildman.
Good morning.
And Fred Jackson.
Howdy there.
Good morning. Good to be here. And we thank everybody for listening to AFR. We got so much to talk about today. I don't know if we'll get to it all, but as everyone knows, 2 weeks from yesterday is election day, and we've got presidential elections, of course, taking most of the news headlines, right?
It is. We're taking the temperature, and the temperature is fluctuating.
Well, and also too, in a lot of the states, there's early voting taking place right now,
which is a big story.
Yep, that's a big story.
Yeah. And I've said many times on here, you need to vote early.
And
often.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got to make it for the Democrats.
Right.
I apologize for that. I should not have said that.
That was a lot of
Wesley didn't set me up for that joke.
No, I didn't.
He didn't.
No, but I didn't stop you either.
No, listen, we all hope and pray it's an honest election, and there's integrity to it, and
in hopes that the things that we learned from 2020, some of those were fixed, hopefully.
I think they work. People disagree with this. I've talked to people who go, hey, there's no hope for Trump because they're Democrats are cheating.
Yeah.
And let's wait and see, okay, how everything goes.
Also, too, we've talked about this before, and then...
You didn't say that. Wesley didn't say that. As a friend outside the ministry who said that.
Even though, are you implying that sounds like something I would say?
Well,
No, you started talking right after he said that.
Yes, like
it sounded
you were confessing.
Like you were explaining why maybe he had...
This is why it takes all of us.
Well,
okay?
Wesley, you are, and this is not a character flaw necessarily. You are given to conspiracies from time to time. That
There's people way worse than me.
but for
Let's not talk about my son now.
Who's a friends of mine, right?
Tony hosted the show yesterday.
Yeah, you
How'd
know
that go?
he did well. He did well.
Yeah.
And
All right.
but I did. It feels funny because I was saying, I said, well, Tim's out, Wesley's out,
Right.
Ray Pritchard's out, Fred's out, and we are really scraping the bottom of the barrel today, folks.
Well, that's a way to introduce your son.
Yeah.
Build his self-esteem.
That's I'm just setting him up to be ready for criticism.
There you go.
All right, Fred, what's the first story you got for us?
Well, we're going to deal with some media stories today about the election campaign. There's one that a lot of people are talking about this morning. The Atlantic publication online, mainly I guess it would be, very liberal, would lean heavily Democrat. What people are talking about is a story written by Jeffrey Goldberg, who is editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. He did a story on former President Trump's interaction with the family of 20-year-old Vanessa Guillen. She was the daughter of Mexican immigrants who was murdered in April 2020 by a fellow soldier at Fort Hood. You may remember that story, very tragic. Well, in Goldberg's story yesterday, he says that Trump consoled Guillen's family at the White House. There's actually a picture of them in the Oval Office, and offered to provide financial assistance to cover the funeral costs. But according to Goldberg's story, he says Trump became enraged when he got the bill for the funeral, refusing to pay it, saying it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury, and then he used an expletive and then said Mexican. Now that is Goldberg's story. The lawyer for the Guillen family and family members are 100% denying the truth of that story that Goldberg has published out there. The lawyer for the family, Natalie...
Excuse me just a minute, Fred. Sorry for interrupting. It's rare. But I got to ask you, maybe I missed it right there. Who heard this? Who supposedly heard this?
This is a story published in The Atlantic.
Yeah, but he's asking who allegedly
Who's the source?
heard Trump say it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury him.
I am led to believe that the source is anonymous at this point. However, I want you to listen to what the lawyer for the family is saying, Natalie Guawam. She is quoted in a story this morning on Fox News. She is saying, after having dealt with hundreds of reporters in my legal career, this is unfortunately the first time I have to go on record and call out Jeffrey Goldberg, The Atlantic. Not only did he misrepresent, all right, so she was interviewed for this,
okay,
all right, misrepresent our conversation, but he outright, and I'm quoting her here, lied in his sensational story. And she's writing this on X. More importantly, he used and exploited my clients in Vanessa Guillen's murder for cheap political gain. I would like to also point out that the timing of this story is quite suspicious, since this murder took place 4 years ago. Also quoted in this Fox story is Guillen's sister, Myra Guillen, and if I'm mispronouncing the name, forgive me. She said, wow, I don't appreciate how you are exploiting my sister's death for politics. Hurtful and disrespectful to the important changes she made for service members. President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect to my family and Vanessa. In fact, I voted for President Trump today. My sister's death was never to be politicized. Unbelievable, she wrote in a separate post. So the question is, why would The Atlantic, why would Goldberg write such a thing, knowing that all of these people are totally denying what he is saying? Why would he feel comfortable doing that? Also in this Fox story, the chief of staff at the time for Trump, Mark Meadows, he says, I was in the discussions featured in The Atlantic's latest hit piece against President Trump. Let me say this, any suggestion that President Trump disparaged Ms. Gillian or refused to pay for her funeral expenses is absolutely false. He was nothing but kind, gracious, and wanted to make sure that the military and the U.S. government did right by Vanessa Gillian and her family. So a couple of questions. Like the lawyer said, why would they write this story now, 4 years after the incident? And also, did Goldberg not talk to these family members? It seems to be the case. He may have talked to the lawyer, but the family members are totally denying this. So why would he do it?
And also, the Atlantic piece apparently made charges about the conversation that President Trump had with the family on the phone as well. And that's why the people in the family of the person who was killed are saying, no, that's not the way the conversation went at all. Yeah. So it's not just that the family is saying, I don't believe President Trump would ever say that in private. Now, they would say that, but they wouldn't know. But the president might have said to someone else. Part of what this article was talking about is trying to characterize what Trump said to the family on the phone, and the family said, no, he never said anything like that.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll answer your question for you, Fred. You want me to answer for you?
Go for it.
The Atlantic is a very liberal news magazine. The idea of Trump winning presidency is repulsive to them. So they are trying to make Trump look bad in a news story they hope will go viral. And
less than 2 weeks or 2 weeks before the election.
He's hoping this becomes the quote October surprise. Right. I'm guessing. Listen, what you described, Fred, is poor journalism, to say the least. If, in fact, this guy is trying to misrepresent, the families are saying Trump didn't behave or act or talk like you're saying he did when he met with us, right? Mm-hmm. Right. He talked with us on the phone. He was only respectful. So what is this guy, what's his name?
Goldberg.
What is he going
Jeffrey
on?
Goldberg.
That's why I questioned you earlier. What is he going? Who is his source to say any differently than what the families are saying here?
I guess Fred, he has an anonymous source.
That's
right?
not good enough.
That's not.
For something like this.
No.
And you're the editor of the magazine?
But having talked to the lawyer for the family, who is denying the story, that even more, if you're talking to the lawyer, and the lawyer is saying, what, all of this is just false. You have family members saying it's totally false. In fact, one family member said, I went out and voted for Donald Trump today.
Yeah, anyway, listen, Trump, he can do damage on his own to himself. We all know that with his mouth.
Right.
But to say stuff that he supposedly he said, and you don't, as serious and as critical and as vulgar as this kind of accusation is, and to not have a tape or a couple of sources is just, to me, completely and totally irresponsible. And it's kind of like what they did back 4 years ago when they didn't run the Hunter Biden laptop story. The mainstream media, remember that, they covered because they didn't want to hurt Biden's chances to win. This is the same type thing. Yeah. I think this is just their open bias. What do you think?
Well, and then there were on the record denials for Mark Meadows and Kash Patel, who's the I'm looking here now, it says former chief of staff of then acting defense secretary Christopher Miller. So those were on the record denials that Trump ever said any such thing. So it's one anonymous source against all these other people who would know.
Including the family members.
Including the family members.
I'm going to go with the family members.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, has there been an opportunity at this point? Is the timeline going so far that it allows the Atlantic to respond to the family members? You know what I mean?
Well, this is new. This is all new. So whether they write something in response to the firestorm, well, I guess that remains to be seen.
But I guess I'd just be curious at this point, when you're exposed publicly, how do you respond? Like, oops, I got this wrong, or because at this point, without their response, it appears to be as they just lied.
Well, the thing is, the family members are talking about this. Yeah. So this begs the question, has a reporter Did you try to get a hold of the family?
Oh,
members?
sure.
Yeah.
Did you try to talk to
And this
them?
guy's editor. He needs to answer those kind of questions. I hope, maybe we'll see that today. Next story.
Other media type stories. We know that the mainstream media has been all in for the Democratic Party. I mean, I read Associated Press every day.
4 decades.
4 decades. And this has been proven. Pew Research has done. 90% of the reporters say they vote Democrat.
Yeah.
So it is a little curious at this point. We're starting to see examples, and I'm going to play you some examples from CNN and NBC, where Vice President Kamala Harris, her running mate Tim Walz, are being challenged in interviews on these liberal networks as to the facts of their story. So I want to play you first. This is an interview CNN has done with Tim Walz, who said more manufacturing jobs have been created under the Biden administration than were ever created under the Trump administration. CNN does a fact check on this, and I want to play what the fact checker had to say about this. Cut number 5.
We want to make sure that you're able to bring manufacturing like Kamala Harris has did. We know Donald Trump lost more manufacturing jobs than any president in American history. That's simply factual.
Well, if you're going to say something is simply factual, it should be factual. It's not true that the Trump presidency lost more manufacturing jobs than any other presidency. Pre-pandemic, under Trump, there was a gain of about 414,000 manufacturing jobs.
今日連れてくから後でね。タバコのやつ。なくさないであれ。
So kudos to CNN. They just fact checked what Tim Walz
忘れてたらちょっと言ってくれたらいいから。
Oh, listen, Kamala Harris has mentioned this during the debate. She mentioned this.
迎えに来るから中まで。だから中に座ってて。
They always talk about Trump's economic record after or during the pandemic. That's what they as if the other 3.5 years before that didn't even exist.
It's insulting to the general public because we all know both sides that whoever was in office when the pandemic took place, all things went down.
Right.
I mean, no matter where it was, we could all debate. Well, it would have. We think the numbers would have been better. If the Democrats in there, the numbers would have been lower. Either way, even if the Democrats were in there and the economy wasn't as good as it was under Trump, or vice versa, either case, whoever was in the White House when the pandemic hit, everybody had bad numbers after that.
Right. And the other side of it is, and this goes to your point about the lying that's going on, is that Harris and Biden-Harris are claiming that they were like magicians in bringing all these jobs back.
They created
these jobs, and everybody knows those are people going back to work after the shutdown.
And the funds ran out from the government.
Anyone, politician or pundit or whatever, that talks about economic numbers and they happen during COVID, and they don't mention that as a major factor in those economic numbers, be they good or bad.
That's right.
It is speaking dishonestly.
Yes.
Because a lot of the jobs that Biden and Harris say they, quote, created were bounce back jobs from COVID shutdowns. And we all know that. So when they say, look at the jobs we created, and you don't say, but most of these were bounce back jobs, and we acknowledge that. If they don't say that, then they're intentionally trying to mislead people.
CNN fact checker that was there, his name was Daniel Dale.
Daniel Dale. Well, good for Daniel Dale.
Yeah.
Daniel Dale.
Daniel Dale fact checking.
We've got a petition going out this afternoon to support Daniel Dale.
Hope he finds a new job.
Well, I think it is highly unusual for the liberal media, and this gentleman may not be liberal. I don't know how this fellow here.
He says CNN fact checker. So.
Fact checker. So what I'm saying is it's rare that you see them fact check a Democrat on a national platform like that.
All right.
We have another example, don't we?
Yes, another example. NBC, not known to be, nice to Trump at all. NBC, in an interview, and I believe the interview was done by Haley Jackson, no connection. Haley Jackson. NBC's Haley Jackson.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
No connection to
No connection.
the Fred Jackson family.
Hi, Mom. No. She had an interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. She really pressed Kamala Harris on why didn't you say something about President Biden's mental decline.
If you see something, say something.
Yeah, if you see something, say something. Have a listen to this portion of that interview.
All right, hold on, Fred.
Yeah.
People, stop what you're doing right now. Okay? You're about to hear a classic. This is going to go to the top of the charts in the Kamala Harris
Legacy.
You know, she has a top 10 greatest hits. And I think
the top 10.
kind of like Taylor Swift, you know,
Yes.
top 10 greatest hits. And I think for Kamala Harris, Vice President, this one is going to shoot to the. It's headed for gold.
Yes.
All right.
It's gold.
The gold record.
Right.
Okay. We present to you, ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
Defended him in the days before and in the days after as you were campaigning for another 4 years for President Biden. Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
And you never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely.
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I'm running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not.
I just think that was pure. That was Kamala Harris.
I was very satisfied with that.
Yes.
Very satisfied.
And listen, again, tip of the hat to Haley Jackson.
Yeah. NBC.
NBC. She's an NBC reporter and a network anchor.
Yes.
For NBC. She had hard questions. And look, I don't know how Kamala Harris has not had an answer for that. I mean, how do you not prepare for that question? I guess because nobody's been asking it.
Sometimes, this is my opinion, not yours, but sometimes, to me, people may disagree with it, the best answer is just to shoot straight. Just say what we all know and try to move on. What Kamala Harris should say to the question about did you not see Biden in decline before the debate is I would say yes, I did. I was worried about it. As were others, but what are we supposed to do? We're not, he's the top dog. So are we supposed to go out and have press conferences against our boss? Anyway, so we're not supposed to do that. We were just hoping that he would make it through and he would not have his bad moments, but obviously he was going downhill. What's wrong with saying that?
Well, a number of things. I think a number of things. First of all, my next question, again, we don't know what...
You mean if she said what I just said?
That, I would say that's what the 25th Amendment is for. You and others knew that the president...
I'm going to play the floor to her while what I would say if I were her.
So you knew the president of the United States was incognitive.
I'm sorry. I had to get a...
Well, that is playing. That is playing.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be serious. Go ahead.
That he was in cognitive decline. He's in charge of the nuclear weapons of the most powerful military.
What do you want me to do about it?
Invoke the 25th Amendment.
Against my boss.
Yes.
Who does that?
Well, that would have been for the good of the country, Madam Vice President.
No, y'all
care more about your
forgetting this, guys. None of this matters because what happened was if she answered in your way,
what I said,
what you said in any form, then now she's admitting that she's a liar. Because you got to remember,
that's true as well.
Because all the way for months leading up to this, she was asked this, and she said all is well. So at this point, if she were to change her mind, she'd be a liar.
Her political career would be over.
Yeah.
Either way, if she arranged for the invocation.
Well, we all know what I said is what happened.
Yes.
Yes, no.
And I believe that if she would have said that, if they all would have early on would have said, "Hey, look, we understand what's going on," it may be true, but at this point, she's proven to lie.
I would just say,
publicly.
yeah, he was in cognitive decline, but it wasn't so bad that we noticed that he needed to be removed from office.
She could have, yeah, she could have
That
said
would have been
that.
a safe one.
That's a safe one. She could have said, "I'm not a doctor." His doctor kept telling us that he was okay.
Yeah.
We had concerns.
That's what
but
I
the
would have
doctor,
said.
But I'm not a doctor, and
go ahead, Fred.
There's another question here that we haven't asked yet. Why all of a sudden are the media asking these tough questions of fact-checking? The fact-checking of Tim Walz could have been done months ago.
Right.
Why are they doing it now? The tough question from NBC's Haley Jackson. Why now?
yeah, and we've got another one, don't we? What do we have? Do we have the transgender question?
We don't have the transgender one, but same interview.
Yeah.
Here's my theory. The mainstream media is smelling the Democrats are in trouble. And they want to now to be able to say, bad candidates.
It's not our ideas.
It's not our ideas. It's bad candidates.
I think it's that, Fred. I also think some things are so obvious, you have to ask them.
For the point of your credibility.
You have to press them if you want any credibility at all.
Especially what CBS is going through.
Yes.
NBC and CNN don't
60 minutes?
Yeah, they don't want to get stuck with people going, "Hey, what's up with you guys?"
Hey, listen, there's no question the liberal mainstream media, they're in full panic mode right now, and
we need Kamala to keep doing interviews.
We'll be back.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
There's a sentence in the book of books which reads like this: "For you are strangers in the land of Egypt." Experience is a great teacher, and all of us have had the experience of being a stranger on occasion. We can remember on those occasions how much we wanted someone to show us a little kindness. Being kind to another makes life enjoyable. It enriches the soul of the person showing kindness and wins the heart of the recipient. So a kind act helps at least two people, possibly and probably more. Greatness of soul isn't measured by genius, fame, or fortune. It's measured by kindness. Stephen Grellet once wrote, "I shall pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again." I believe also that being kind to another brings kindness in return. There's a law of life which is stated like this: we reap what we sow. Most of us are aware of what happens when kindness isn't used. Harold Sandall put it this way: any kindness that is never used but hidden alone will slowly harden till it is hard as any stone. Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. It's called the Golden Rule. It's a wonderful way of living. Be kind to others because you want them to be kind to you. Kindness is also the best persuasion we have. Now, our speech may be good and interesting, and we need to use interesting and informative words, but one act of kindness often speaks louder than 1,000 words. Frederick Faber once said, "Kindness has converted more sinners than zeal, eloquence, and learning." And that's true. The ministry of kindness is a ministry which may be achieved by all people, rich or poor, learned or illiterate, young or old. Brilliance of mind and capacity for deep thinking have rendered great service to humanity, but by themselves they are impotent to dry a tear or mend a broken heart. Whatever a person has to say, it does not mean much unless it is backed by action. And for many of us who have trouble getting our words to come out right, we found the simple act of kindness gets the job done. The stranger who sojourns with you shall be to you as the native among you. and you shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. We've all been strangers in the land of Egypt. We know how much kindness is wanted and needed and appreciated. Let us, therefore, be as kind to others as we would wish they were to us. Edgar Guest, the poet, he had a way of expressing profound thoughts in simple words, and he wrote this down one time. When I see a deed of kindness, I'm eager to be kind. When a weakened brother stumbles and a strong man stays behind just to see if he can help him, then the wish grows strong in me to become as big and thoughtful as I know that friend can be. And all travelers can witness that the best of guides today is not the one who tells them, but the one who shows the way.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
For he has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves. Colossians 1:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues here on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. And we thank you again for listening. Election Day, 2 weeks from yesterday. And Fred, we will be here
on election
on this very place on the dial or on your app, right? On election night?
At 6 o'clock Central is when the program launches. And we're starting at 6 o'clock because that's when on the East Coast, there's a bunch of states that are in the Eastern time zone that will have their first results. And there's 6 or 7 states, I believe it is, at least, that'll have the first results.
What time?
6 o'clock Central. 6 o'clock Central, because polls on the East Coast are 7 o'clock Eastern time zone. So we'll be here. And so it won't be just speculating at that point, folks. We'll be telling you what's going on.
You're not going to want to miss this either. We'll be streaming it, right?
Yes.
Okay, Walker and I are going to arm wrestle. So
excellent.
You're not going to want to miss that. So for those that,
You're
going
to arm wrestle.
Yeah, Walker Wildman, my brother, and I will be on, and we like
Can people place bets on that?
Yeah.
On our AFR website?
We have.
This is for entertainment purposes only.
That's right. You know, you get the UFC category, and then we have our own version. That's the Christian version.
Okay.
Folks, if I were a bet man, I would guess that he's kidding.
Yes, that's right.
You're a betting man.
I was going to suggest if it was true, that one wear blue shirt, the other one a red shirt.
All right.
You know?
And then
we may get creative.
Then we'll say who's going to win the election based on who wins that.
Yeah.
You remember they used to have
like a Groundhog Day.
They used to have an octopus or something, I think, until it died. You remember this octopus? It would come out and whichever side
like Groundhog Day with the
whichever side of the tank it would come out on would determine, I think, who's going to win the Super Bowl, but things like that.
Yeah,
I think it's
scientific.
You lost me.
No, it was an actual octopus, and it would be released inside a tank, and then whatever side.
Did you go through a period of taking drugs? I mean, that's okay. Everybody has their.
It predicted the winner every time.
No.
Yes. All right. You don't
maybe the winner, but
well, I'm sorry. I just doubt you.
The winner.
You're not similar to
me long enough.
I just don't remember anything like that. But you know, hey, you could be right.
Are you saying winter or winner?
Octopus predicting Super Bowl.
Okay, you're saying the winner.
I'm looking at what Ed's talking about. An octopus in a popular. This is AI generated, right?
All the octopus. He died in 2010.
Oh wow.
That's the one that predicted the results of soccer matches. Rocky the Octopus predicts Super Bowl 46 winner, went 4 for 4 on the Super Bowls.
My apologies, Ed. I doubted you.
To Tim, Fred, and Wesley, and probably Brent, here's what I'd like to say. Booyah.
Well, that's a good Christian attitude.
I would have received that more
Right.
better if
Booyah.
you would have the original statement. If you would have said that the octopus predicted the weather, like winter.
Oh, okay.
Cold, but you said winter,
Like
Winner.
and
like
then
the
I'm
groundhog.
out. I had to have that to believe you.
Right.
So I appreciate you.
Sure. Absolutely.
Now, Tim, how are you going to segue into our
We're
guest?
segueing. We're going to segue. Well, there are octopuses all off the coast of Florida.
Some of them have washed up lately.
Yes, so joining us from the Sunshine State, but not an octopus, is Jenna Ellis. Jenna is host of Jenna Ellis in the Morning, 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time, right here on American Family Radio. And good morning, Jenna.
Good morning, and I actually have a great octopus quick joke for you, because did you know that lawyers are often called sharks, and the best among us lawyers are called squids or octopi, because those are the only things that kill sharks.
Oh, well, yeah.
Thank you, JJ.
Except I think orcas can take them down. Too.
Yeah, orcas can take anything.
But anyway, get the point. I gave Abraham Hamilton III, I had a book somebody sent me that I looked through and read a couple of years ago, whenever it was, maybe not even that long. Anyway, so I gave it to Abe. Jenna, you'll be glad to know the title of it was Lawyers and Other Reptiles.
That's great, because you know what you call 100,000 lawyers at the bottom of the sea?
A good start.
A good start.
Oh, that's bad.
Shakespeare, first kill all the lawyers, so, you know.
Okay, if you keep going. Anyway.
I'm just saying, I love lawyer jokes.
Yeah,
They're often true. And actually, the best one for our conversation today is the true definition of politics. Have you heard this one?
No.
Poly meaning many, and ticks meaning blood-sucking parasites.
I like that.
Well.
What is the opposite of Congress?
Yeah. What?
Progress.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, all right, I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
done.
bada boom. Okay,
Booyah.
so
I heard that one was in favor now.
Okay, so Jenna, on a more serious note, in Florida on election day, not only do we have a Senate race going on, the U.S. Senate race, you have the presidential race going on, but also there is what's called Amendment 4 on the ballot. Now, a lot of people listening have heard about this. It's a referendum for the citizens of Florida to decide on what is at stake here. And Fred, do we need to play before or after Jenna comment?
Before, I think. And
Okay,
then
that
Jenna
would be
can
helpful.
comment. Yesterday, there was a news conference, and it featured the CEO of the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Her name is Dr. Christina Francis, and she talked about Amendment 4 there in Florida, and you have that cut, Fred.
You know, there's a lot of information going around that women can't receive life-saving medical care when they need it because of these laws, and that simply is not true. OBGYNs like me across the country in every state are still able to treat miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, and other pregnancy complications. We also wanted to convey the true dangers associated with the abortion drugs.
Yeah, and she went on to talk about too, and we're hearing this story repeated over and over again. There are 10 states with amendments that are being voted on with regards to abortion. But there's a lot of talk about how the language of these amendments by these pro-abortionists